Hello everyone, welcome back to Books with Benghis Khan. Today I want to talk about some of my favorite new books, which are the first three in the Sharpe novels by Bernard Cornwell. I have to thank Alan from the Library of Alexandria for putting these Sharpe books on my radar and pumping them up so much. I've been almost exclusively reading fantasy and science fiction for the last 2 years, so this was a departure from that, and it felt like a risk too, because the last time I tried historical fiction from this era did not go well. I was really bored to tears by the Master and Commander book that I read, and so I was a little wary of going back to this well, but it couldn't have gone better. These books are so engaging, and they read like fast-paced modern fantasy, so thank you so much, Alan. So I am just thrilled because I think I found a new favorite author and a new favorite series, and there's 23 of these books out so far, and I think a 24th one coming out later this year. So Cornwell's still going strong, and I'm thrilled because I loved these three books. I'm giving all three of them 5 stars. That's Sharpe's Tiger, Sharpe's Triumph, and Sharpe's Fortress. So these three books form the first arc of this series, which is the India arc. It's the three books that come earliest in the chronology of the series, where Sharpe is the youngest, and that happen when the British are still trying to consolidate their control over all of India before the series shifts to the European theater and the British fighting the French in the Napoleonic Wars. But I loved this setting, and I'm kind of sad that it's done with and that Sharpe's heading back to Europe now, because this setting was just full of lively characters. Felt like the Wild West, and I didn't really know anything about this time period in India, and it really was like the Wild West in a lot of ways, where people are going there for greed and for their fortunes, their reputations, and there's just kind of a lawlessness out in some of these areas in southern and central India where this is all taking place, and it was just a lot of fun. But beyond that, also very compelling and suspenseful and tense. So overall, just an incredibly engaging reading experience so far. And I can't wait to keep going with it. So how did I read these? Now this is interesting, because in the past, over the last couple years, I've mostly been switching off between reading in print and in audio. So when I've been out on walks, doing chores, traveling, I've been listening to the audiobooks, and then when I've been at home, I've settled in with the print book. And so I've done kind of books in a hybrid way. Now I've recently started to try out immersion reading, where I'm listening and reading along in the print book at the same time. And this was just awesome for these books, because Rupert Farley, who recently recorded new versions of a lot of the Sharpe books, did an incredible job. For fans of Stephen Pacey's First Law audiobooks, you will love these. Not only because the narrator does a similarly spectacular job here, but the actual reading experience was similar to a lot of the First Law books. You have just cynical, witty humor all the time coming from different characters. You have a lot of really villainous, selfish characters. And then you have visceral, gritty action as well. Fans of John Gwyn's action, I think, will really love a lot of what Cornwell's doing here. And I know Cornwell inspired Gwyn. So if you like Gwyn, if you like First Law, and if you love Stephen Pacey's narration, try the Rupert Farley audiobooks. He is putting every ounce of talent and effort into this performance, into every line, and that's what Pacey gives you and why he's such a god of an audiobook narrator. But Farley is right up there with him, and he's similarly a kind of older British stage and screen actor, and was just perfect for this set of books. So I want to give you a little bit of the experience that I had. So I'm going to play a little bit of Farley's narration from toward the beginning of book 1, and you can follow along on the screen.
That's the way the business works, Sharpie. Says so in the scriptures. And how are you going to stop it? Answer me that, boy. Are you going to pay me more than nasty, Will? Hakeswill stopped in front of Sharpe, where he waited for an answer, and when none came, he shook his head derisively. You're a boy playing in men's games, Sharpie, and you're going to lose unless you're a man. Are you man enough to fight me here? Put me down? Claim I was kicked by a horse in the night? You can try, Sharpie, but you're not man enough, are you? It you, Sergeant, Sharpe said, and be put on a flogging charge. I'm not daft. Hakeswill made an elaborate charade of looking right and left. Ain't no one here but you and me, Sharpie. Nice and private. Sharpe resisted the urge to lash out at the persecutor. I'm not daft, he said again, stubbornly remaining at attention. But you are, boy. Daft as a bucket. Don't you understand? I'm offering you the soldier's way out. Forget the bloody officers, you daft boy. You and me, Sharpie, we're soldiers, and soldiers settle their arguments by fighting. Say so in the scriptures, doesn't it? So, beat me now, lad. Beat me here and now. Beat me in a square fight. And I warrant you, you can keep Mrs. Bickerstaff all to your little self. He paused, grinning up into Sharpe's face. That's a promise, Sharpie.
So in that scene, you have the main protagonist, Sharpe, who's just at the lowliest rank of private in book 1 here. And you had him interacting with Obadiah Hakeswill, who is his sergeant, and who is just so easy to despise because he is an unhinged, kind of insane character who's malevolent. He's evil, he's completely immoral and selfish and greedy, cowardly. What Cornwell does with Hakeswill and with some of the other extremely hateable characters is that you don't just see them externally with what they say out loud, what they do. You get in their POVs and you're exposed to every single hateful thought they have, every selfish, racist, misogynistic, masochistic thought that they have. And they become so easy to hate because you know for sure, being inside their minds and hearing their thoughts, how evil they are. And as they hatch their plans, or you get their intentions, you hate them and you fear for the chaos they could cause. You fear for the damage they can do to Sharpe or the other characters that you like. So you just get so pulled in with these odious characters and hoping that they can get some kind of comeuppance or justice done to them. And so that is a great draw to these books. Everywhere you look, there are colorful characters, from those hateful ones to more courageous, upstanding kinds of characters. And Sharpe's somewhere in the middle there. He is full of personality. I was a little worried coming into this that the main protagonist, he's a younger guy, would be some sort of personalityless cipher where we just follow all the action through his eyes. But that is not the case. Sharpe comes from a kind of orphan, kind of living on the streets of London as a petty criminal kind of background. And he is clever, resourceful, he not afraid to get his hands dirty, but he's charming, he's clever, he's a decent person who wants to do good and make his officers proud. He is very likable, honestly. You get POVs from lower ranking officers all the way up through Arthur Wellesley, who's commanding the British forces here. You get the leaders of the Indian forces that are opposing the British. You get POVs from the European mercenary or deserter allies of the Indian forces that are opposing the British. I don't think Cornwell knows how to write a boring character. So that is just a continual pleasure in these books as we meet more and more new characters along the way. Another one of the great strengths of these books is the completely immersive feel of the battle scenes. Cornwell provides just an astounding variety of sensory imagery to help you feel like that you are there with the characters on these battlefields. You get the sounds of the battlefield from the guns and cannons and the bagpipes and drums. You get the feel of the hot tropical sun. You feel the characters' aches and pains, their fears, the thrill of battle. You get all of these very authentic details, the smoke that clouds the battlefield as cannons and muskets are firing. I felt at times like I was wearing a virtual reality headset and that I was seeing the battlefield on the ground. And that from reading these, I felt like I have a real experience of what it's like to charge an enemy line, to storm an enemy fortress with cannon fire and musket fire raining down on you. I mean, I was so immersed that these battle scenes just flew by and are some of the best I've ever read. So the structure of these 3 books is actually very similar. So mild spoilers about the overall kind of structure of these books. So they start with a kind of small scale battle. Just right off the bat, out of the gate, you are with the British forces fighting a battle, and it's tense and the action is high stakes. But then the middles of these books are all kind of the planning for a much larger action set piece that's coming at the end. And Cornwell just does an amazing job building up to these larger battles. So the middle's just a lot of both sides kind of planning for these battles, trying to figure out, the British trying to figure out how to overcome a highly fortified kind of defensive position of their enemies. The Indian forces or European allies are trying to figure out how to defend their position. And then in the midst of it, you have Sharpe, who is Cornwell's fictional creation, getting into mischief or getting some important mission that's related to the big battle coming up. And his kind of personal enemies are trying to thwart him or to get him in trouble or steal from him. So you have this kind of personal drama going on at the same time that you get exposed to all the battle tactics and strategies from the leaders of both sides. And then it all leads towards these huge high stakes battle set pieces at the end, where the British are attacking extremely well fortified positions where they're outnumbered humongously, and you think there's no way they can win, but history tells us that they did. And so it was just extremely suspenseful, even knowing probably what was going to happen, just how it was going to play out and how the British were going to possibly fight through these defenses and fortresses. And so the action was amazing and suspenseful. Cornwell did his research. He talks after each book a little bit about his research that he did visiting each of the locations in India and what he changed from the historical record and kind of created on his own that usually relates to Sharpe and some of his main characters. But he talks about the actual history and the really incredible history that happened here. So these battles and this setting and time period are just perfect subjects for novelization. They feel like you're reading heroic fantasy, feels like you're listening to a First Law audiobook. You're in the midst of battles in John Gwynn's books. It was just so engaging. If you like First Law or Faithful and the Fallen, if you enjoy extremely personality-filled audiobook narration, and you think you might enjoy a little historical fiction that's episodic, where you don't have to commit to reading all these books in a row, you can dip into them. They're all kind of standalones, and just coming back whenever you'd like to get a little taste of it. They're all pretty short. The first one, Sharpe's Tiger, is a little less than 400 pages, but the rest are usually a little under 300 pages. So they're all not too long, very digestible, fast-paced, fun, tense, suspenseful. You got it all here if you like military-style fiction. So if you think you might like those, check out Sharpe's Tiger. It's a great place to start, and hope you enjoy it.